I'll say right now, plain and clear, that if this new presidential administration starts rounding up American citizens for deportation, I'll fight for you. If it dissolves state-granted rights protected by the Constitution, I'll stand with you and legally battle to the end. If there is even a glimmer of racism or bigotry, and they try to open an official funded lynching department, I'll burn that bastard to the ground. But if you want to throw a tantrum, hurt police officers, and break the law because your candidate lost and tried to destroy our already weak constitutional republic because you didn't get your way, I'll laugh at your pathetic use of the word revolution. Tim Kennedy.
And one thing I like to bring you to is the terms we're seeing way too much in reporting on, and it's become almost routine, and it's sad. Labeling a president or people racist, white supremacist, nationalist. Well, where are we going with these terms?
Ignorance. That's what it is. It's somebody that is unable to form an argument and be able to put into words how they disagree with somebody. Instead, the easy solution is to name call. You know, in my household, name calling, it was the lowest form of communication. That means that you cannot form an argument. You can't articulate what you're trying to say. So instead, I'm just going to start name calling. It's idiotic. I'm normally a 220-pound guy.
Right.
And I'm a grenade carrying maniac. So while my kit is normally like 20, 30 pounds, I then have a backpack with like 20 grenades. Because sometimes I'm like, I'm going to flashbang this room. Yeah. And sometimes I'm like, I'm going to frag it.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to deal with what's inside.
Yeah. You know, you get guys like you, and I appreciate when someone like yourself takes a certain artistic perspective when it comes to combat. And you say to yourself, you know what? These little frag grenades, I like them. I like what they do.
They're so little. They're so mean.
They're so little. They're so mean.
Yeah.
And I like that. I like people that have that artistic expression that they utilize in combat to express themselves. It's a beautiful thing.
Just so for an opportunity.
That's the political correctness and bureaucracy in the military. Not a good thing.
So, yeah, I have heard kids and women scream that I threw a grenade into the room they're having their dad shoot from. Get nightmares from it. Yeah, I've seen donkeys go down wells because the village lied to us. Yeah, I've watched bombs get dropped on entire villages where I knew that there are people, like, not bad people, they were good people near bad people, and watched all the buildings crumble.
Martha Stout, The Sociopath Next Door, page 139. Strangely, some acts are so emotionally bankrupt that they require the absence of conscience. Just as astrophysics requires intelligence, and art requires talent, of warriors who can operate without a conscience. Lieutenant Colonel David Grossman writes in On Killing, whether called sociopaths, sheepdogs, warriors, or heroes, they are there. They are a distinct minority, and in times of danger, a nation needs them desperately. But these same nations pay a concealed price within their borders for the glory they bestow on their still-cold killers in the field. The path to such glory does not go unnoticed by others for whom guiltless killing is a special aptitude, others who will never find themselves working behind enemy lines.
I think people have this perception of, Rangers and snipers and Green Berets that's like just so skewed, like we're heartless murderers and baby killers and just such toilet, like we're all family guys, we all love this country and we love having fun, like that. I think if you're going to pick an attribute or characteristic that's most common amongst the special operations community, it's like that we're just, meat-eating, corn-fed American boys that like to have a good time.
Good good, man. The Foster's attacked our people.
Of course they did.
They did.
Because
Sir, what does today represent to you? The camera's right here. What does today represent to you?
How you doing? This represents a turning point for the people of this country. We are determined to take our country back. We're going to fulfill the promises of Donald Trump. That's what we believed in. That's why we voted for Donald Trump, because he said he's going to take our country back, and that's what we got to do.
Not everyone that puts on a uniform or a suit is a hero. Some of them are villains who hide behind badges, military uniforms, respectable credentials, or high political offices. Sociopaths who feign patriotism, loyalty, honor, and justice, but have no real reverence for both the written and unwritten social contracts that normal people live by. Such individuals have allowed their morals to erode, so that they are willing to justify any means in order to achieve their end goal, even if it means killing women and children, or teaming up with and supporting individuals who share and promote false black-on-white crime statistics linked to a neo-Nazi website, like InfoWars host Alex Jones and President Donald Trump did publicly. For someone who has spent 3 years of their life hunting real Nazis, men and women who have SS tattoos on their necks and swastikas on the backs of their hands, it seems suspect that you would lend your credibility to Alex Jones to help him falsely promote the idea that the left was planning to launch a race war or civil war before the 2016 presidential elections. This makes you look like a ghost skin who is using the show Hunting Hitler as a cover. Not all real Nazis have SS tattoos on their necks and swastikas on the backs of their hands. You speak of political correctness as if it were solely a tool of the left. However, political correctness was an invention of Southern strategists and used by politicians who publicly did not want to sound racist while still appealing to their base.
Here's how I would approach that issue as a statistician or a political scientist, or no, as a psychologist, which I'm not, is how abstract you handle the race thing. In other words, you start out, and now y'all are quoting me on this. You start out in 1954 by saying nigger, nigger, nigger. By 1968, you can't say nigger. That hurts you, backfires. So you say stuff like forced busing, states' rights, and all that stuff. And you're getting so abstract now. You're talking about cutting taxes, and all of these things you're talking about are totally economic things. And the byproduct of them is blacks get hurt worse than whites. And subconsciously, maybe that is part of it. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying that if it is getting that abstract and that coded, that we're doing away with the racial problem one way or the other. You follow me? Because obviously sitting around saying we want to cut taxes, we want to cut this, and we want is much more abstract than even the busing thing, and a hell of a lot more abstract than nigger, nigger, you know. So any way you look at it, race is coming on the back burner.
This is who you are. Muhammad Ali dies and you share a post about Rocky Marciano. Americans protest for the removal of Confederate monuments, and you post about the tomb of the unknown soldier, which has nothing to do with the protest. Colin Kaepernick kneels to draw attention to police brutality against black people. You throw a temper tantrum on Fox News and say that it's not the right time. Stop disrespecting our flag. I fought for your freedoms. American descendants of enslaved Africans fought in every American war for the purposes and interests of this nation. However, no American war, including the Civil War, was ever fought for the purposes of granting freedom and equal rights to us. Lincoln chose to fight instead of allowing the southern states to secede for the purposes of maintaining the Union, not freeing slaves. Our ancestors have fought for our own freedoms, and while they fought for this country enduring segregation and Jim Crow laws, they rose up and fought for civil rights. And it was people like you that were saying it is not the right time. You have not fought for our freedoms. You fight for yourself and for your own purposes.
Just type into Google black on white crime statistics, and you'll get this from the federal government.
How long have you felt this way? I mean, I guess my question is, was there ever a time where you...
Right, well, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
The first thing that, I guess I could say, I would say woke me up, would be the Trayvon Martin case, and that was a while back.
Right.
What was it, 2 years ago? And, I kept hearing about this kid, and I'm like, eventually I decided to, look his name up, just type him into Google, you know what I'm saying? And then I read the Wikipedia article about Trayvon Martin, and I couldn't understand what the big deal was, you see what I'm saying? And then, for some reason, after I read that, I typed in, for some reason it made me type in the words black on white crime, and that was it, ever since then.
Just type into Google black on white crime statistics, and you'll get this from the federal government. 25 times more likely, less likely for a white to attack a black. So 25 times. Here's the one time a white attacks a black, FBI crime statistics. Here is the 25 times a black attacks a white. I mean, these are real numbers, and I'm not bashing all black people, but I grew up to not be a racist. And then I was wondering why big black guys kept attacking me. Well, that was because they were racist black guys in Dallas and were in gangs. So here you go. And it goes through all the numbers. Just search engine, black on white crime statistics, Department of Justice. And it even gets into how whites are 4 times the population of blacks, but it doesn't matter. You have a white attack 25 times for every time a black is attacked. But you wouldn't believe that watching Quentin Tarantino movies, because he's ultra rich and in with the Silicon Valley guys in a rearguard action to just make sure America fights with each other while the globalists rob everybody. Because I want everybody to live together in peace.
Well, that goes to the next question. Why did you have to do it?
Oh, I had to do it.
How come? I mean, that's what I don't know.
Well, I had to do it because somebody had to do something. Because, black people are killing white people every day on the streets. And they rape white women, 100 white women a day. That's an FBI statistic from 2005. Yeah, that's 10 years ago. It might even be more now, who knows. It sounds unrealistic, but you break it down, that's 2 a state. It's really not unrealistic at all. It could probably be more. The fact of the matter is, what I did is so minuscule to what they're doing to white people every day, all the time. And just because that doesn't get on the news doesn't mean it's not happening. Everybody knows that the news is biased for black people. We can pretend it's not, but we know it is.
They want us fighting with each other over what color we are. I went and ate at a nice restaurant Wednesday night on East 6th Street, a gentrified area, and had somebody try to mug us. Basically said, "Give me money. I'm real mad," and bowed up. And I just said, "Listen, we're not going to give you money." And it was a black guy doing it to us. And then one of my crew members went out Saturday, almost got mugged downtown by people pulled out knives and were going to kill you, whitey. I don't hate black people because there's a bunch of racist black people out attacking whites. But see, the media won't cover it because it's political correctness. And they've so energized some black folks with hatred, they believe it's okay to go out and attack whites. You can't even go into downtown Austin, basically anywhere. I want to warn everybody. You just go out, you will deal with black Ku Klux Klan people, basically. Look at this statistic, USA crime statistics. Blacks killed by whites, 2%. Blacks killed by police, 1%. Whites killed by police, 3%. Whites killed by whites, 16%. Whites killed by blacks, 81%. 81% of whites killed was by blacks. Blacks killed by blacks, 97%. And that's the same number today. I mean, if you're worried about black people, you could worry about black folks killing you. But see, it doesn't matter. You get a couple hundred blacks getting killed every year by cops, and sometimes it's wrong. You'd think that's the end of the world.
Are you aware that the liberal media and the Democratic Party in general trying to paint you as a racist? Are you aware of that?
I think so, but I think people know better than that. I'm probably the least racist person on earth.
Well, I've known you a long time, and I never saw any racism from you. However, when you tweet out a thing, and this bothered me, I got to tell you, you tweeted out that whites killed by blacks, these were statistics you picked up from somewhere, at a rate of 81%. And that's totally wrong. Whites killed by blacks is 15%. Yet you tweeted it was 81%. Now,
Bill, I didn't tweet. I retweeted somebody that was supposedly an expert,
but you don't
and it
want
was
to be,
also a radio show.
Why do you want to be in that zone?
Hey, Bill, am I going to check every statistic? I've got millions and millions of people.
You got it. You're a presidential contender. You got to check
millions of people. You know what? Fine. But this came out of radio shows and everything else.
Oh, come on,
All
radio
it was
shows?
A retweet. I didn't say. Excuse me. All it was is a retweet. It wasn't from me, and it did. It came out of a radio show and other places because you see all the names.
Look, you know I'm looking out for you, right? You know that? Yeah, I'm looking out for you. I look out for every honest politician. I don't care what party they're in. Don't do this. Don't put your name on stuff like this because it makes the other side, it gives them stuff to tell the ill-informed voter that you're a racist. I mean, you just hand it on the platter.
This was a retweet. Bill, I'm sure you're looking out for me. Everybody is, right?
Yeah.
This was a retweet. This was a retweet.
All right, whatever it is.
And it
I
came
told
from
you
sources
shouldn't tweet
that are
ever.
very credible.
You shouldn't be tweeting. Don't tweet. Give it up for Lent. Lent is coming soon.
Okay,
give
good.
it up. All right,
Good.
final question.
You know what? I like it. Can I tell you what? I like it because I can get also my point of view out there, and my point of view is very important to a lot of people that are looking at me.
And one thing I'd like to bring you to is the terms we're seeing way too much in reporting on, and it's become almost routine, and it's sad. Labeling a president or people racist, white supremacist, nationalist. Well, where are we going with these terms?
Ignorance. That's what it is. It's somebody that is unable to form an argument and be able to put into words how they disagree with somebody. Instead, the easy solution is to name call. You know, in my household, name calling, it was the lowest form of communication. That means that you cannot form an argument. You can't articulate what you're trying to say. So instead, I'm just going to start name calling. It's idiotic. What it is it's fear. It's fear that this man is making changes. You know, Trump might not be perfect, but what he does do is care, and he's trying to make positive changes in this country, how he sees them. And people that disagree with the way that he does that, it's like, oh, he's a racist, he's a bigot. I loved an era where, if you called a president a racist, a bigot, a coward, you would be at the end of a duel. Now, I'm not saying that we should be pulling out swords and guns and pointing them at each other in the White House, but there should be consequences for your words. If you're a congressman in San Antonio and you start publishing donors' names, like, that's a problem. When you start calling a president a coward and a racist and a white supremacist, and that you can't come to El Paso, no, that's not okay. And there should be consequence for your words.
Do you remember that time when Tim Kennedy showed up on Alex Jones' InfoWars looking like a mix between KFC's Colonel Sanders and Confederate General Nathan Bedford Forrest to falsely promote the idea that the left was planning a civil war before the presidential election?
And welcome back here on InfoWars Nightly News and this Friday evening edition. Now, we've already seen civil unrest at record levels since the 60s here in the United States, mainly Bernie and Hillary supporters attacking our own Jakari Jackson, hitting him with a rock, attacking police horses with barricades they're throwing at people. The New York Times calling, for somebody to kill Trump. Glenn Beck saying he wants to stab him. The establishment media, the leftists, are really trying to destabilize this country from my historical research. But Tim Kennedy, Green Beret, tours all over the world, famous UFC fighter, obviously, has also worked in some of the most elite units that deal with continuity of government and things like that. Now, he didn't tell me that. I know folks that are involved in that, and they say he's one of the top guys. But he says, yes, I'm an expert, and that he can speak to it. And so I want him to kind of repeat to us what he said behind the scenes about how concerned he is about what is coming, what is already here, and how bad it could get, and how we stop it and maintain our free, open republic. Because make no mistake, the Soros-backed globalists want civil disobedience, civil emergencies, riots, looting, race war to bring in even greater control later. They're pushing this to take everybody's free speech in the end. So for about 8 minutes we have left here in this final segment of InfoWars Nightly News tonight, I'm going to give the floor to Tim Kennedy.
It's a scary thing coming up. You know, what we know is coming is the perfect petri dish for bad things to happen. You don't see riots in Chicago in the middle of winter. It's too cold. People don't want to go outside, right? So for really civil unrest to happen, you have to have a bunch of little things that set up for the perfect situation. You have to have a reason, right? People are so emotionally involved in this presidential election right now, and finally, for the first time, realizing that there's something wrong with our country, that there's been like the existential perspective that the eyes are open, eyes wide open. We know that something's not right. The racial segregation that, you know, like, even though we have a president saying, hey, I'm trying to break down borders, we've never had so much hate between different racial segments, which is disheartening and concerning. But what's even more scary is we know that all of these things individually are setting up for the perfect opportunity for serious civil unrest. And now that we're moving into summer, we're moving into the presidential election, we're moving into us sending troops back into Iraq. We're looking at groups and segments of people that are supporting specific presidential nominees that are losing their guy, that are furious over the fact that, you know, Ted Cruz, you know, the never Trump people, or the never Hillary people, or the never Sanders people. All those people are losing their guys, and they're only going to have two options. And now we have a perfect, conducive environment for some serious problems. You think riots in, you know, Missouri was bad? Just wait until July. Just wait until August.
So if the dominoes are set up and lined up and Soros and others want to kick them over, what do we do?
Now, you say dominoes, I say the gasoline. You know, like the trench has been dug and it is just full of accelerants. You know, like you have every single thing for that fire to just explode. And now
so the climate's perfect.
Yes, the climate is perfect. The temperature is perfect. Everything is right for things to go really.
So if the planets are aligning, and most analysts are saying that, it's happening all over the world. We've seen some of the globalists fund the Arab Spring to put radical Muslims in and other things. How do we counter this? I mean, educating the public?
Being prepared, first of all, you know, as an individual, you have to get ready. You have to do all the little things that, you know, don't think that people don't care if people think that you're crazy. Don't think that you're being a fanatic, that you're being a prepper. I am only responsible for my family. My family's going to have food. My family's going to have water. We are going to be safe. And if you think I'm crazy because I want to make sure my family's protected, fine, that's the way it is. But as an individual, you need to look and research about ways that you need to prepare for what would happen in whatever city you live in. If you're in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and Trump comes to town and the whole entire city loses its mind, they're breaking horses' legs, they're throwing Molotov cocktails. That's in May, before we even have him as a nominee. What do you think is going to happen in August, when we're just a couple of months away from the election, when things are really ripe? It can get bad, and it can get bad fast. You need to do the research and figure out what you have to do to really prepare to make sure that your family's safe. And now, nationally, they are inciting and encouraging racial wars and riots. And if you want to be able to shut people up, you have to use fear. So the definition of terrorism is to use fear or violence as a tool, as a weapon to achieve your objectives, right? If you're a politician, you can use that same fear to take away freedoms, to pass acts that give you access to every single iPhone out there. Be like, no, it's a terrorist. We need to be able to get inside of that guy's phone. He's really bad. Just give us access to all iPhones so that so we can protect you. That's terrorism in my definition. You're using fear as a weapon to gain more freedom.
Wow, Tim Kennedy, that was powerful info. The whole country, the whole world's in danger of escalated civil unrest, like Google financing the Arab Spring to just bring in that tyranny, and these vultures sit on top of it. You're getting folks ready with sheepdogresponse.com.
Give us your name and your occupation, sir.
My name is Tim Kennedy. My occupation, that's complicated.
That means he's gonna go and drive down the street and throw more acid on little girls. Yeah, I've been there. I murdered that motherfucker. Because we don't let that happen, not in our world. All of those little decisions lead up to that moment where you're gonna live or die.
Sheepdog Response is an opportunity for us to change the current culture of Americans.
Like, okay, I'm drilling. No, we're drilling to stay alive. We're drilling for that time that we have to fight for our life.
There we go, nice takedown.
Gotta find it, gotta find it. And if you don't drill that way, you're gonna die.
Sheepdog Response is the work to liberty.
You feel that, right? This is not jujitsu. I just tore your eyes out. Old man jujitsu is for fucking old men to die.
It's putting the teeth back into the we are the people. And you're gonna see for the first time how you've lived your whole entire lives. You're gonna have like, not this existential realization that you're like, oh my God, nirvana. No, what you're gonna do for the first time maybe is as you're normally pushing the shopping cart, looking at your shopping list or texting or grabbing your kids or throwing it on the cart, you're gonna go like this. You're gonna look up. And the moment I step off in country in a non-permissive or semi-permissive, fuck, even a permissive environment, I am profiling all of the time. That is the thing that saves my life. We're not building an army. We're not creating vigilantes. We're changing a culture that really values freedom and appreciates hard work and loves what's on the far side of it.
They think I'm against a race war because I'm scared I'm going to get killed. No, it's the opposite. I'm scared you're going to get killed. I've got security. I've got firearms. I live defended, behind a gate, behind walls. If there's a race war in this country, it's going to be the minorities that share the main brunt of the slaughterhouse.
FBI arrested these two alleged white supremacists in Chesterfield, Virginia, who the FBI says plotted to kill black people and people of Jewish faith in furtherance of their extremist beliefs. The complaint says they planned on, quote, shooting or bombing the occupants of black churches and Jewish synagogues, conducting acts of violence against persons of the Jewish faith, and doing harm to a gun store owner in the state of Oklahoma. These men, Ronald Cheney and Robert Doyle, allegedly met with other associates who were in their white supremacy group to discuss this plot, and according to the FBI, they later met with an undercover FBI agent acting as an illegal arms dealer. The FBI says these men placed orders for automatic weapons, explosives, and a pistol with a silencer. And it's interesting to point out in the complaint, one of the men was recorded saying he was suspicious about the undercover agent who was acting as that arms dealer and suspected it was a federal operation, but that did not stop them from allegedly moving forward with their plans, and they were arrested earlier this week when the FBI says they attempted to purchase those weapons.
Today is the 22nd anniversary of the Oklahoma City bombing. 168 people died in that attack carried out by Timothy McVeigh. McVeigh sympathized with armed right-wing militia groups. These groups are still active, gaining members online and honing their combat skills in training camps. The NewsHour's PJ Tobia went inside one of these camps to produce this report.
This is the Kill House.
Move.
Part of a training ground for a right-wing militia in the American South.
This is for conducting military operations in urban terrain. We want to practice and rehearse moving up to these structures, covering each other, taking cover and concealment everywhere we can find it.
2 shots, 2 kills.
These men and women call themselves the Georgia Security Force.
Clear my rifle.
Our common goal is to provide for security for ourselves, our friends, and our families, and the other people in our states, if and when the need should arise.
Their leader, Chris Hill, a.k.a. Blood Agent, says the need could arise at any time.
I think what the government gives, the government can take away. If they're providing the security for us, if they can take it away. We're going to have fun, get a lot of good training in.
They're part of the 3% militia, one of the nation's largest armed right-wing groups. They believe only 3% of colonial Americans fought the Revolutionary War, yet were able to overthrow British rule. Historians say the number of male colonists who fought in the conflict, closer to 25%. According to the Anti-Defamation League, more than 10,000 people identify as 3%ers. They have a presence in nearly every state. Their ideology, a mix of anti-government conspiracy theories.
Could be our own government overreaching. If we end up, with a tyrant in office, no one knows what can happen in 15 years, but at least we're going to be prepared.
3%ers suspect Islam and foreigners. Recent refugees represent both.
It's an unarmed invasion.
And some militia have answered with violence. Recently, militia members have allegedly participated in high-profile felonies, from plots to bomb federal buildings, attacks on immigrant communities, and murders.
Yeah, they pose a big threat to public safety.
JJ McNabb is an expert on these groups. She travels the country leading training seminars for law enforcement on militia and other right-wing extremists. She says the groups have committed or planned hundreds of violent attacks.
They range from plots to kill cops, for example, blow up a police headquarters. There's a lot of resisting arrests. They don't believe that cops have any authority over them.
Two at a time.
There are more than 500 militia groups in the U.S., more than double the number in 2008, according to the Anti-Defamation League. Most of them are right-wing and anti-government. In addition to the 3% militia, there's the Oath Keepers, formed in 2009. They're primarily current and former law enforcement and military personnel. Oath Keepers showed up in Ferguson, Missouri during the protests in the summer of 2015. They said they were there to help keep the peace and protect reporters working for the conspiracy-fueled website InfoWars.
White supremacists love to play the victim while being the aggressor, as a sick form of mockery. White supremacists have for decades promoted bogus black-on-white crime statistics to purposely paint black people as inherently violent murderers and rapists, while painting white people as helpless victims of black rage. They have also promoted the idea of an impending racial holy war, while fantasizing about eliminating all non-white people from the earth.
It's racial, but you're not going to hear Jesse Jackson or any of the white liberals talk about it. Let's play this Ben Stein clip from Fox News where he says Obama's the most racist president there's ever been. Hey, I know this. He sure promotes it. And there's sure been this green light put out that being white is inherently evil or even Hispanic.
What the fuck are you guys talking about?
I've been racially attacked by black people. Probably, let's not exaggerate, 35 times. I've been racially attacked by Hispanics. Let's not exaggerate, 5 times. Let me tell you, that's when you really get hurt bad. And, compound fractures, you name it. Oh yeah, you get hurt real bad. And the whole point is I am sick of it. I am sick of the fact that I have been racially attacked over and 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 over. And the politically correct thing to do is just offer your kids up to have their noses broken and their eyes black and their bones broken. Because the one thing you don't do is ever go stand up against it. Now, that said, that's what political correctness is in this country.
But the point is, I have experienced full-grown black men out of high school who've been out of prison. Large black men, we're talking 6'3", 6'4", physically attacked me at Sonics and things when I was 14 years old because I put their little cousin in the hospital. Well, your little cousin rammed my head in the ground. So, of course, I started punching him in the throat. And I'm sorry they had to do a tracheotomy on him. He attacked me. And by the way, it was the best thing ever happened to me. I'm not a victim. The look in people's eyes when they think they're going to hurt me, and I started turning it loose on them, and I started getting them on the ground and ramming their head in the ground, it was good. It was good times. And then it was like, who's this little guy that thinks he's tough? I had to beat the hell out of the rednecks when they started fights with me. But the point is that I was fighting for my life. It's the reason I could kick ass. I'm not looking for fights. I don't want to fight. But the average black person's never had a white person physically attack them. I'll guarantee you, every white person I know that went to a school that was 20, 30, 40, 50% black got attacked constantly. And so I get to see this slimy, racist dirtbag. Why do you think most white kids in schools adopt fake black culture, which they get beat up for now, too? That's cool. Because they're trying to not get their ass kicked. You know, I was in high school when I was 15 and had 4 Mexicans who had mustaches in high school. They flunked so many times, break my leg. All because I had talked to a girl that one of them had dated. And they came to my house in the middle of the night and knocked on the door, and I came out, and they attacked me right there in the parking lot. And the first guy stood up for an attack, and so I knocked his ass down, and then I knocked another guy, and then all of them jumped on me and stomped my leg, screaming, F you, gringo. F you, gringo. And I got a pin in my leg to this day from it. Broke my leg at the ankle. There aren't Mexicans and black people 1 out of 1,000 ever had white people do jack crap to them.
Christopher was a Navy SEAL for how long, Christopher?
About 10 years.
10 years. And I want to talk to you about that in just a moment, but you were in the news last week because of, you were shot, basically, to put it in simple terms.
Indeed.
What happened?
I'm pulling up to the shopping center, and I'm getting out of my car and walk behind my car, progressing towards the store. And now, mind you, I just got a new truck, so I'm parking as far away as I can.
Sure, right. You don't want to get any dings or dents in it. You're looking back, looking at the thing as you walk.
Exactly.
Like, that's a sweet-ass truck.
That's mine.
I used to, you ever do that when you get a new car? You open the door to the garage, you look at it, you go, that's pretty sweet. Yeah.
So I'm, 2-3 spots away from my car, and this other car just literally almost backs up over me. Like if I was on a cell phone, if I was doing anything other than paying attention to my surroundings, I'd have been underneath that car.
Yeah.
So the guy continues to back up, despite the fact that I just vaulted myself off the rear corner of his car. And
so he actually did hit you.
Well, right. He didn't strike me. I prevented it. I did like a
gymnastic move.
Yeah, pommel horse technique, Rover. Yeah. Very good. Very good. So I was on the moving pommel horse, and I found myself next to his window, at which time we exchanged pleasantries. It was like expletive, dude, what's up?
Right.
Expletive, you need to watch what the expletive you're doing. And his retort to me was pretty similar, with a couple of, references to my skin color, of course. So
F you, whitey, you honky,
exactly.
bitch. Gotcha.
Exactly. That's kind of how the whole conversation went. So, I'm pretty non-confrontational by nature, because I think the more deadly you are, the more relaxed you are in any kind of a situation. Mm-hmm. So I basically, non-politely excused myself from the conversation and kept going towards the store. Then I realized I didn't have my wallet. So I go back to the car, but meanwhile, he kind of kept backing up in that arc and posted up about 10 feet, 15 feet on the other side of my car. Mm-hmm. Still, perpendicular to my car, still facing the store. So I didn't think anything of it. I'm like, maybe these guys are planning, where they're going to go from here. They were backing out.
Now, wait a second. He goes, I didn't think anything of it. Now, if I was just in a verbal altercation with someone and I realized that I don't have my wallet with me, how many guys are in this car, by the way?
At least 2. I thought I heard another voice from the back seat.
2 or 3 guys. Me, what I do is I just continue on into the place where I'm going, the restaurant or whatever. I know.
Without your wallet?
Yeah, because you know that the carload of dudes is right there. They're about ready to beat my ass or whatever. I mean,
so you just fake like you have your wallet and going in.
Yeah, I mean, how could you not think anything of it? You just got into a huge altercation with these guys.
It wasn't huge. Matter of fact, I wasn't even shouting it, and I would venture to believe that my idea of an emergency and yours are completely different.
I'm sure. Yes, absolutely.
So, like I said, I'm capable of handling myself. A matter of fact, if 3 guys come up to me in a bar, that first guy is inconsequential to me. I'm already looking through that dude to the other guys behind him. I've identified the exits. I'm going to strike fast, strike hard, leave some bodies on the floor and get the hell out of there.
Yeah.
That's pretty much how I was trained. So I'm walking back to my car. I get my wallet and I continue back to the store, and he re-engages me, pulls up next to me, around the same spot where we had the initial conversation, pretty damn close. So I'm still far from the store.
Mm-hmm.
So he says, hey, you need to learn some respect, whitey, blah, blah, blah. You got a big ass mouth, all this stuff. And I said, well, where I come from, respect is earned, it's not issued. And I'd be happy to, give you a chance to earn that right now if you're, so inclined or something like that. He looks to his buddy, looks back at me, and then I felt this massive impact to like my left lower abdomen, like mule kick. Took my breath away, doubled me over.
You feel it before you even hear the gunshot.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
really?
Yeah.
Okay.
You figure, right? It's, faster than the speed of sound, right?
Yeah.
So it's hitting you before you like I said, if I had been, so I'm still upright and I'm pissed off. About 2 seconds later or less, I'll gather myself and I see them turn in the corner in front of the store, exiting the parking lot.
So they peel out, they shoot you, they fire a single shot?
To my knowledge, I didn't hear anything. I didn't hear a shot to begin with. I didn't even see a gun.
Okay.
The window never came down more than 6 inches from the top. So I saw more of the passenger than I actually did of the driver.
Mm-hmm.
So, my first thought is I gotta go after these guys. I'm pissed off. I'm still upright, and this is what I'm taught to do. Pursue. This is what I'm going to do. So, I'm behind these guys, and they've got a fast car. I've got a big lumbering truck. So, I was never able to get closer than probably 75 yards, 50 yards max to them.
Mm-hmm.
They were just hauling ass. So it was at that time that I had to take a couple of assessments because I knew my health was going downhill pretty fast. I had a finger in a hole in my stomach. I was sweating.
So you take your finger and you pop it right in there. They train you to do that if you're shot or
breathe.
On Wednesday, Chris Heben took the stand in his own defense at his trial in Akron Municipal Court. And after deliberating for just half an hour, the jury found him not guilty. We spoke to one of the jurors off camera and asked if the jury believed Heben's story. The juror told us, quote, "We just felt that the prosecution did not present sufficient evidence."
Did you see a gun? I did not see a gun, sir.
And we start with breaking news as a military hero tonight stands accused of a crime. Retired Navy SEAL Chris Heben told police he was shot during a fight in a store parking lot. But now investigators believe he lied.
And tonight Heben faces charges for it. News Channel 5's Bob Jones live on 5 in Bath Township. And Bob, you actually broke the story on NewsNet5.com this afternoon. So what's happening now?
Well, it was a dramatic story that actually made national headlines. A struggle in a parking lot, a shooting, and the victim in the case said he was trying to chase down his attackers. Well, tonight, Bath Township police say the story was a lie. And about an hour ago, Chris Heben was charged with 2 misdemeanors in Akron Municipal Court.
I wasn't 100% sure that I was shot when I was shot. It just felt like someone, hit me with a baseball bat.
Several days after former Navy SEAL Chris Heben told police he was shot by strangers in the West Market Plaza, he told the story to News Channel 5, explaining that he plugged a hole in his stomach and chased after the suspects, but didn't call 911.
I wanted to keep it on the down low. At that point in time, I did an immediate physical assessment, and I was still functioning. Plus I wanted to chase after these guys. I'm aggressive.
But Bath Police Chief Mike McNeely says Heben's story that he was shot after an altercation with 3 black males in the plaza last March is bogus.
I'm absolutely sure it did not happen at the West Market Plaza.
Police have now charged the man who took part in dangerous missions as a SEAL with falsification and obstructing official business. McNeely says Heben was shot somewhere, but after months of investigating, the story, which made shoppers and business owners nervous, didn't add up.
Basically through hours of investigation, interviews, review of surveillance footage, subpoena requests of telephone records, we determined that it did not occur at the West Market Plaza.
The question remains, why would Heben, now a spokesperson for Montrose Auto Group, make up an elaborate tale? McNeely says he doesn't know the motivation or where the shooting happened, but he'd like to find out.
There's accountability to be had by Mr. Heben, and that's the result for the 2 charges.
I think people need to understand is that when you sign on the dotted line for your Navy contract or U.S. military contract, you're essentially signing a non-disclosure agreement. So did these guys disclose sensitive information to the extent it's going to damage operational capabilities or their fellow SEALs in the line of duty or anyone in Special Operations Command? I don't think so.
Joining us from Cleveland is Chris McKinley, a former U.S. Navy SEAL and the CEO and founder of Invictus Group, LLC. Chris, thanks for coming back to us this evening once again.
My pleasure.
So, really, anybody can go and rent a truck and go and plow through a group of people if they want to. How can intelligence help to possibly prevent things like this from happening?
Well, that's probably not an intelligence issue per se. What it is having concentric rings of security. Thanks for visiting my page. Are you ready for the challenge? Hi, I'm Chris Eben, former United States Navy SEAL. Hi, this is Chris McKinley, former United States Navy SEAL. Nodded to the guy, and then he looked back at me, and I feel this massive impact to my abdomen. It felt like a mule kick.
Former Navy SEAL Christopher Heben made headlines in 2014 when he claimed that he was shot during an altercation with 3 men in the parking lot of a shopping center in Summit County.
Here it comes.
But a Bath Township police investigation found that there was no evidence that Chris Heben was ever at the shopping center on the day he claimed he was shot.
Yeah, hey, I'm outside the fire station door. I think I need to be seen by a medic.
Investigators eventually concluded that he fabricated the story and charged him with falsification and obstructing official business.
Why is it that they don't believe you, Chris? Hey, why don't they believe you?
But when Chris Heben stood trial in Akron in April 2015, a jury deliberated for just half an hour before finding Heben not guilty.
As a SEAL, someone who's disciplined and controlled and taught to temper the good with the bad, from weather conditions to just people around you, I had to just roll with it and deal with it and suffer through it, suffer in silence.
In the years since he was cleared, Heben changed his name to Chris McKinley, posting on Twitter that he is the first cousin of President William McKinley, 5 times removed. Published reports now indicate that police in Haiti identified Chris McKinley, also known as Chris Heben, as part of a group of heavily armed men stopped at a police checkpoint in Port-au-Prince on Sunday. The Haitian capital is the backdrop for violent anti-government protests. A top police official says when the men were asked what they were doing in Haiti, they said they were on a government mission, and that, quote, our boss will call your boss. The prime minister of Haiti called the men, quote, mercenaries and terrorists. But after U.S. government intervention, Chris McKinley, a.k.a. Chris Heben, and the other members of the group were released from custody in Haiti and flown back to the U.S., landing in Miami. So far, no one is willing to say what exactly Chris Heben McKinley and his compatriots were doing in Haiti. Jack Shea, Fox 8 News in Cleveland.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Ray, welcome. I'd like to ask you a question. Do you know what group was responsible for more homicides from 2000 to 2016 more than any other domestic extremist group?
Not sure, but I trust you're about to tell me.
Not a trick question. I raised that question because your testimony that was submitted to the committee talked a lot about homegrown violent extremists. In an unclassified FBI DHS Joint Intelligence Bulletin in May 2017 found that white supremacist extremism poses a persistent threat of lethal violence. Went on to say that white supremacists were responsible for more homicides from 2000 to 2016 than any other domestic extremist movement. 7 members of the committee joined me in writing a letter to you and Attorney General Barr explaining our concern about whether the FBI and Department of Justice were taking adequate measures to combat white supremacist violence and minimizing this growing domestic terrorism threat. The term white supremacist, white nationalist is not included in your statement to the committee when you talk about threats to America. There is a reference to racism, which I think probably was meant to include that, but nothing more specific. We live in a world where the neo-Nazis and white supremacists are taking lives in many places. A white supremacist murdered 51 Muslim worshippers in New Zealand. 2017, a white supremacist murdered 6 Muslim worshippers at a mosque in Quebec City, Canada. And in the United States, far-right extremists perpetrated the shootings at the Sikh Temple in Oak Creek, Wisconsin, the Emmanuel African Methodist Episcopal Church in Charleston, South Carolina, the Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and the Shabbat of Poway, I'm sorry if I mispronounced that, Poway Synagogue in Poway, California. The reason I raise this is because there is a concern that this is not being taken as seriously as it should be, as one of the real threats in our country. And a concern as well that the FBI has now changed its definition when it comes to race-related crimes. They've created a new category for what you term racially motivated violent extremism. it used to be white supremacist incidents. Could you explain to me why there was this change, whether you consider this a serious threat, and what you're doing about it? I ask you this in the context of a national conversation that's taking place every single day under this presidency about the issue of race and incitements to emotion and violence by the people who are using race as the motivator.
So, Senator, first, let me sort of unpack your question a little bit. Needless to say, we take domestic terrorism or hate crime, regardless of ideology, extremely seriously, I can assure you. And we are aggressively pursuing it, using both counterterrorism resources and criminal investigative resources, and partnering closely with our state and local partners. In just the last little while, we've had cases involving, for example, the Coast Guard lieutenant who was planning an attack on elected officials and TV anchors here in this area. We've had militia members.
Was that motivated by a white supremacy belief?
I think it would be a version of that, certainly. Our focus, when you asked about the categorization, our focus is on the violence. We, the FBI, don't investigate ideology no matter how repugnant. We investigate violence. And any extremist ideology, when it turns to violence, we're all over it. And we've had, in fact, and that you don't have to just take my word for it, just in the first 3 quarters of this year, we've had more domestic terrorism arrests than the prior year. And it's about the same number of arrests as we have on the international terrorism side.
I ask you to clarify that, because when you talk, I don't know if we're talking about the same thing, but when you talk about homegrown violent extremists, and I talk about domestic violent extremists, are we talking about the same thing?
No. So we use the term homegrown violent extremism to refer to people already here in the United States who are inspired by different parts of the global jihadist movement to commit terrorist acts.
Okay,
we use the term domestic terrorism to refer to a broader array of threats ranging from anarchist extremism to different kinds of racially motivated violent extremism to different kinds of environmental extremism, etc.
So let me pursue that for a second. So the point I'm getting to, and the reason I quoted this unclassified report, is if it's violence that motivates the FBI investigation. What we have here is a statement in this unclassified joint intelligence report that between the years 2000 and 2016, the white supremacists were responsible for more homicides than any other domestic extremism movement. Now, I see the distinction you're making, homegrown versus domestic. But let me ask you, can you quantify either one of them for us?
Well, in terms of number of arrests, we have, through the third quarter of this fiscal year, had about, give or take, 100 arrests in the international terrorism side, which includes the homegrown violent extremism.
This year?
This year. But we've also had just about the same number, again, don't quote me to the exact digit, on the domestic terrorism side. And I will say that a majority of the domestic terrorism cases that we've investigated are motivated by some version of what you might call white supremacist violence, but it includes other things as well.
I think this is significant. I do not want to diminish the work that you're doing when it comes to the homegrown domestic terrorism in any way whatsoever. Not at all. And I understand that as a serious threat to the United States, and 9/11 is proof positive of that fact. But what you have just said is significant. If the number of people arrested this calendar year, when it comes to this extremist conduct, is about equal between those who were inspired by foreign actors, ISIS, Al-Qaeda, whatever it might be, and those who were inspired by white supremacy or at least some version of race. Now, if that's the way I heard you say it, please clarify.
So let me clarify. What I just gave you were the number of arrests. The number of arrests. That's not necessarily the same thing as the number of investigations.
Well,
right? So that's an important distinction.
Assuming the integrity of your department, which I will, the fact that they would make an arrest, it is with the belief that a crime has been committed. The point I'm getting to is we are in a very tense moment in American history on the issue of race. We are having a national conversation that we haven't had in a long time about racism and the reaction, what's acceptable and what is not. And what I'm asking you from the FBI point of view, and what you've told me, is that we ought to take care, as seriously as we take foreign-inspired terrorism, there is a domestic terrorism underway in the name of race that is as threatening in some respects as the foreign terrorism. That's the way I hear it.
Yeah, I don't know that I think the greatest terrorist threat to the homeland is the homegrown violent extremist. I will say that
These
we
would be
take
foreign-inspired,
which is jihadist-inspired violence. That does not mean, by any stretch of the imagination, that we don't take domestic terrorism, including hate crime committed on behalf of some kind of white supremacist ideology, extremely seriously. And we have had a number of very significant arrests. I mentioned the Coast Guard one, but we had militia members in Cleveland stockpiling explosives to build pipe bombs. We had the Cesar Sayoc case involving the package IED. We had the Rise Above movement, where we arrested 8 different people on federal rioting charges. One of them fled to El Salvador, and we got him back. We had the Tree of Life synagogue shooting case, which you mentioned, and the shooting outside San Diego, the attack in the synagogue there. We got 29 count, I think it was, conviction and life sentence related to the Charlottesville matter. So make no mistake, the FBI, working with our state and local law enforcement partners, is all over this.
Thank you very much.
And one thing I'd like to bring you to is the terms we're seeing way too much in reporting on, and it's become almost routine, and it's sad. Labeling a president or people racist, white supremacist, nationalist. Well, where are we going with these terms?
About ignorance.